Hi everyone, so the first thing I did is I took this Briar Beauty doll and removed her factory paint with a little touch of acetone, and all I did was just wipe over with the acetone, then change ends on the cotton bud to wipe up the excess, and then use a fresh cotton bud to go over the face another time, just to make sure any residue that was left is removed, and also to make sure every last little bit of factory paint is off. If you squeeze the heads together, it's easier to get the paint from in between her mouth, inside her mouth. And then I give her a good scrubbing with a baby wipe just to make sure I get the acetone residue off her face. Then once she's dried off, I removed her accessories. Just want to keep them for a future doll. They always come in useful, and I've got plenty of Ever After highs to paint, so clothes like this come in useful. I always keep hold of doll clothes because you never know. Most of her costume is made up of other dolls, but I'll show you the costume I did for her in a different video. This video is just about how I did her face and her hair. So then what I did is I marked in pencil, well actually it's a polychromos. I marked where I wanted the eyes to be and the shape I wanted the eyes to be. You can't see it much on camera, but that was just really for my reference. And then the first thing I always do is I paint the whites of the eyes. It gives me a good starting off point. It lets me know where the eyes are going to be. I can also make sure that I get the pupils and everything lined up and get the eyes just the shape I want them. Now you'll notice that the one eye looks smaller than the other at the minute. That's because I'm giving her a black eye on the one side and some wool scratches, so that's why it's going to look like that eye on the other side is swollen, which is why it's shut more than the other one, in case you were wondering. And then what I do is I paint the iris of the eye second, just so I can make sure I've got it all lined up. I don't like to do it any later than that, because then if you mess up it's harder to erase it and then go back. Whereas at this stage I could just quite easily wipe the eyes off with a bit of acetone and start again. That's why I tend to do the whites and the irises first. Then this is me just mixing some colours and just testing it to see how it blends in with the natural skin tone of the doll. I wanted to create obviously a more sort of slightly 3D looking eye, and around the top of the eye where you'd have the crease of the eye socket is where I'm adding just a slightly darker shade of colour just into that little eye socket area, just to make the eye stand out a bit more, and it gives me a shape to work from. Then I use a light brown colour just to go around where sort of like the waterline, the lash line would be on the lower lashes and upper lashes. I don't go over anything in black at this stage. I just start off doing everything in brown, and then I can always darken it later on. So that's me just going over the upper lash line on the OOAK eye, as it were, and on the damaged eye. And it's just a case of then it's just shading from there on, once I've got the basic shape in place. So what I'm doing here is I'm just adding some shading to the corners of the eye where the eye meets the nose area, just shading around the eye, so it's shading the eye socket in. And what I use for that is like just the same colour I used for the crease of the eye socket, but I water it down a bit, so it's more like a wash than anything. I haven't used watercolours on my dolls for ages. I tend to just use my acrylic paints and then just thin them down a lot with water. I'm kind of preferring this method to using watercolours and stuff. I find I'm getting a result nearer to what I wanted. I'm used to painting with acrylics. I've always used acrylics for years, so it's a medium that I'm used to, so that's why I'm sticking to using acrylics for this. And then what I'm doing is shading, blending in, and just adding a bit more colour to the upper lids. I'm just adding a highlight and blending it in a bit more, and just keep working on it until the eye looks sort of 3D. Basically where the center of the upper and lower lid is, you want that skin a little bit lighter than the corners. So that's all I'm doing here, and I'm just mixing up various skin tones just to create that effect. And then I'm just mixing up any colours that I need and using those on the eyes. I'm using the blue and a magenta colour, just mixing those together, and that's creating my bruise colour. So I use like a flesh tone with a bit of blue and magenta mixed in it, just to give me that sort of bruised purpley colour. Like a bluey purple is what you want to aim for. Make sure that the bruise colour goes right into that eye socket area, so it makes it look like the bruising is spreading. It just looks better. If you've just got a bit of bruising on the eyelid, it doesn't look right. You need bruising around the eye. Then what I did as well is I took some of my ready magenta colour and just watered it down, and then what I'm doing is dabbing that onto the white of the eye. I want the eye to look bloodshot and damaged, and then I'm using that same red and magenta mix to create the cuts, the claw marks on her face. The idea for this character is that her name's Ruby, and she's a wolf hunter. She's inspired by Red Riding Hood, but I prefer the version where, like, you know, she's a badass and she fights the wolves and stuff. So I've decided this is my little character called Ruby, and she goes around protecting her village, hunting the wolves and catching and getting rid of as many as she can. She lost someone in the past who was killed by a wolf, which made her determined to seek revenge and get rid of the rest of the werewolves that are bothering her village. And she's sort of like the leader of the people, like the resistance against the wolves now. So she trains up other people and teaches them how to defend themselves against werewolves and regular wolves. So she's become a bit of an expert on all sorts of breeds of wolf. So that's the idea behind this character. And the makeup I'm giving her, I wanted it to look like she's just fought a wolf, like she's just fought like one of the pack leaders, and it's been a bitter battle and she has sustained some injuries, but she did win in the end. That's the look I'm going for, and that's the idea behind the character. I gave her a scratch on her lip as well, and for her lips I wanted a sort of not red, but sort of reddish type of lip colour. What I did was I started off with a sort of skin tone mix with the red, and then darkened it a little bit, and then what I'm doing now is adding little streaks of white and different colours to her lips, just to give that sort of texture to the lips. Oops. And then what I'm doing here is using my polychromo pencil to just go into the eye socket area and just darken it a little bit. And then I'm going around the eyes with a little bit of pastel as well. I wanted her eyes to be a bit dark and moody looking. I did lighten this up in the end, but at this stage I was going for a slightly darker look, but then I changed my mind partway through. And then what I'm doing is, with a wet cotton bud, I'm just wiping off any excess that I don't want, and then using my pencil to mark in where I want the eyebrows to go. It doesn't show up very well, but because I haven't got like Mr. Super Clear or anything like that, I can't use anything like that because of my asthma. And then what I'm doing is just marking in where the eyebrows are going to go, and then using little strokes with my paintbrush to create them. And this is the look I came up with for her. Hope you enjoyed the video. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye for now.